Alright guys, this is our video on the distributive property. Just a little bit of background here. The distributive property we're going to work on here in our number systems unit. We're going to kind of do the basic part of it, and then when we move to the equations and expressions unit, we will dive in a little deeper. So let's start off here with just a word problem. So yesterday Steve bought 5 DVDs at the store. DVDs cost $8 each. And then today he bought another 7. So how much money did he spend on DVDs? I want you to think of how would you solve that problem? What would you do to solve that, to figure out how much money he spent? Let's see. Did you do it this way? Did you say, well, yesterday he bought 5 DVDs and they cost $8, so he spent $40 yesterday. And then today he bought 7 DVDs, so that would have cost $56 today, so a total of $96. Or did you do it this way? In all, he bought a total of 12 DVDs, and then they were $8 each, so that would have been 8 times 12, so that's $96. Either way, you see it comes up with the same answer. Okay, so this is actually looking at the distributive property. If you look, these are actually the exact same thing. You notice I multiplied 8 times 5. I distributed this 8 times here, and I also multiplied 8 times 7, or distributed it. Okay, so that's what we're going to work on today. So go ahead and have your notes out, and let's look at this. So the distributive property actually means it is used to multiply a single term or 2 or more terms inside a set of parentheses. So this is what it looks like mathematically. So again, if you notice here, I'm multiplying 6 times 2, and then I'm multiplying 6 times 5, which will come out with the exact same answer. All right, so now let's look at your notes. Let's see how what we've been working on with factors, how that's going to help us with this distributive property. So let's look at our expression here, which is 12 plus 20. Well, first of all, you know that 12 plus 20 is 32. Okay, so we know that. So we're going to come up and see if we can find a different way by looking or pulling out that greatest common factor. So let's first find our factors of 12. So our factors of 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. Those are our factors. Now let's look at our factors of 20. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. Okay, those are our factors. So do you see the greatest common factor between those two numbers? You see 4. So that's my greatest common factor. I'm going to write that here. Okay, and remember my expression was 12 plus 20, so I'm looking for 12 and 20. So 4 times what gave me this 12? Well, that would be 3. And then 4 times what gave me this 20? That would be 5. All right, so these are the numbers I'm going to look at. I pulled out, or I factored out this 4. So I'm going to put 4 outside the parentheses. Then 4 times what gave me 12? Well, that was 3. Keep my same sign, which is addition. And then 4 times what gave me 20? It was 5. All right, so this and this are the same. It's just written a different way. So if I distribute this, you will see 4 times 3 is 12, plus, and 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, so it's the same thing. All right, let's move to the next one. Let's look at this one. All right, so my factors of 36 are 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, and 4 and 9. My factors of 81, let's see, 1 and 81, 3 and, let's see, 27, and we'll say 9 and 9. Okay, so what's my greatest common factor here? It is 9. Let's look at my numbers again. 36 and 81. So 9 times what gave me 36? It would be 4. And 9 times 9 gave me 81. So I'm pulling out my greatest common factor, which is 9. Oops, sorry, I wrote the wrong number there. Pulling out my greatest common factor, which is 9. And 9 times what gave me 36? 4 plus, and 9 times 9 gave me 81. Okay, let's try another one. All right, let's try to do this without writing out all the factors. Can you just find what the greatest common factor of 64 and 40 is? You think of it and I'll think of it. All right, I'm thinking 8. Okay, so my numbers here are 64 and 40. So 8 times what gave me 64? That would be 8. And 8 times what gave me 40? That is 5. So let's factor out my greatest common factor. 8 times what gave me 64? 8. Keep the same sign. And 8 times what gave me 40? That would be 5. Okay, you can always check your work, make sure you're right, because you just distribute. So 8 times 8 is 64, that checks. And 8 times 5 is 40, so that checks. Okay, all right, let's do some more examples. You have these on your board. Let's see if we can try to do these without listing out all of the factors, because that just kind of takes a long time. Let's just see if we can do that by finding out the greatest common factor. So figure out the greatest common factor between 18 and 12. Do you see that it's 6? So I'm going to pull out 6. So 6 times what would give me that 18? That would be 3. Keep my same sign. In this case, it's subtraction. And then 6 times what would give me 12? That would be 2. Okay? All right, you do these two. Pause the video and come back with your answers. All right, check those out. I found my factor, my greatest common factor, and I pulled it out. Oops, forgot to close those. Okay? All right, let's move on. Let me do another one with you here. Looking at this number, first of all, if you have a problem looking, you can turn your multiplication chart over on the back, and that's factors. But also, like this one, 15, I know my only factors of 15 are 1, 3, 5, and 15. So one of those hopefully should be a factor of 39. So hopefully you see that 3 is the greatest common factor. So take out 3. 3 times what would give me that 39? That's going to be 13. Keep my sign. And 3 times what would give me 15? That would be 5. All right, go ahead and do these two. Pause the video and come back with your answer. All right, check those answers. All right, you've got 6 more problems here. Pause the video and come back for the answers. All right, check your answers. Only one I want to look at is this one right here. In case you didn't know that 15 was the greatest common factor and you got 5, you would have come up with 5, 6 plus, let's see, 2, 25. Nope, 15. You would have come up with this. But do you see that 6 and 15 still have 3 as a factor? So that's why I knew that this one was not enough. So I had to take out 3 again. So that's how I ended up with 15 as my greatest common factor. Okay, so this whole time you've been factoring out a common factor. So now let's go the other direction and distribute. Okay, distribute. So if you look at these, you've been doing this. First of all, let's look at this one. If I were to do this by myself, I would say 10 plus 3 is 13 times 7, and that's going to give me 91. But if I were to distribute this, so let's look at this. If I were to distribute, which this is actually what I want you to do on column 2. I want you to distribute it. So it would go 7 times 3. And you can put this little dot as a multiplication sign. Because in algebra, that's what that little dot means. If you want to put an X, a multiplication sign, that's fine. But you will see me do this quite a bit. Plus, and then 7 times 10. Okay? So that comes out to be 21 plus 70, which equals 91. Okay, let's do this one. 16 times 2 plus 16 times 8. Oh my, that's a big one. So let's see. 16 times 2 is 32 plus 16 times 8. Let's see, that's 48. Carry my 4. 12, 128 equals, let's see, 160. Okay, these are big numbers. Let's do one more, and then you get to work. 9 times 12, minus 9 times 8 equals 9 times 12 is 108 minus 72, which gives me 36. Okay. I'm going to do one more, and then you do 4 by yourself. So 12 times 5 minus 12 times 3 equals, that's 60 minus 36. So that would be 24. All right, you do these 4. Pause the video and come back for the answers. All right, check your work. Some of those were big problems. So check over those. All right, this was a long video, kids. Thanks for sticking with me. If you have problems with any part of that distributive property, please let me know. And then here are your 5 problems for your distributive property. First, you're going to distribute these, okay, just like we did in the last set. And then 3, 4, and 5 is what we did before. You're going to pull out your common factor there, okay, your greatest common factor. So pull them out. Okay, oops, that looks bad. Do you understand what I'm saying here? So you're going to pull out your factor. So you should find a number that goes here, here, and here. All right, have a great day. If you have any questions, please let me know.